elections committee. They have certified the results from our first ballot, and so they will do that for us. So if I could have the slides for my report up, thank you. So as I said before, this idea of in mission together, and then translating it quite literally in misión juntos, and then in conversation being challenged to say, well, is that the right way? Well, it's an okay way. But what about if we thought about it differently? Juntos en misión. Together first, and then we can go into mission. And I think that's pretty good. That's a pretty good idea for us. And after 7 years of serving as your bishop, now 8 years of serving as your bishop, I can tell you that frankly, nothing really does happen unless we are together. Congregations do not function well if they are divided. We do not function well as individuals if we are divided within ourselves. We don't function well as a synod if we are divided and not clear on who we are as the people of God baptized. I'm going to preach a little bit later, so you're going to have to stop me here because I'm giving a report. But one of the things, dear friends, we have to be, as Don's impassioned sermon earlier was about, is understanding our role as Lutheran Christians in this community, about being that grace note that Phil likes to talk about all the time, about being a place to say, you're welcome here, but we're going to push you a little bit to make sure you welcome others. I mean, I think that's something we need to be about. And we need to be thinking about how do we be different in a world of division. But again, I'm starting to preach. I'll stop. So, all right, can I get this thing to go? There we go. So the past years brought some change. We had a Synod Assembly in Shreveport, Louisiana. It was great. We gave thanks for Jason O'Neill's ministry. Thanked him. He went out the door, and then we decided to move. And so we moved to Good Shepherd Lutheran in Irving, and Anna Thompson, our intrepid administrator. If you have not met Anna today, you will at some point. And then, oh, there she is. And then she's going to go fall over dead because she's been up since 5 a.m. She's taken on a lot of Jason's duties. She also helped us with the move, as did all the staff pitching in. And it's been a good move. We've lived into that move. As you can imagine, whenever change happens, people get nervous. And the people of Good Shepherd were rightly a little nervous about what was this going to mean if we were living together now. And so we've had an intentional year of getting to know one another, making some small changes. We had our first Synod Council meeting there last September in person. That was great. We got to worship together and install parish lay ministers there. And then we had a really fun thing happen last September. Was we were having our worship, we were having our dinner before worship. A familiar face walked in the door that I was like, "Why are you here?" Now we try to be welcoming. We're not always as good as we think so, but sometimes you get shocked. There was Pastor Ray Zisheng. Any of you remember Pastor Ray Zisheng? Manuel and Colleen for many, many years. His intern supervisor for several of you. He walked in and he said, "This is the 50th anniversary of my ordination to the day." Now, what are the odds of that? So we were having our Synod Council meeting, and then he walks in. And he said, "I was ordained right there." Because the fellowship hall and where we were eating was a sanctuary 50 years ago. And he had a picture to prove it. And so those are some of the kind of the neat things that happen being in a congregational setting, is we get to see the quilters coming on Wednesdays. We see the staff interacting with the unhoused people of Irving and see how that's the reality of our congregational life. People are coming and going, things are happening, and I feel the energy from that, and I know the staff does too. We're not perfectly settled in yet. There's still some things we're working on, but again, we're working on those together in mission. I love it to be able to celebrate faith milestones with y'all. Thank you for those who invited me out this past year to do various and sundry things amongst us. It's been always fun to do First Communions and confirmations. It's always fun to be there for big celebrations, to be at Christ in Dallas for their back-to-school Sunday. It reminds me of serving in a congregation with a school and having that opportunity to be with those children and families. And so please do invite me as I'm able. I'd love to be there for those milestone moments. And to remind those young people as well that they are part of something bigger than just their congregation, that they're part of the church. We also have had a year of caring for one another. A lot of various ways we care for one another. One is, I just got this picture on the left a couple days ago from the Upbring Gala and up in Lubbock. And we had a good turnout of our Panhandle Conference folks to support Upbring, and Upbring is here as one of our displayers, and so you can connect with Upbring as they do their work ending the cycle of child abuse in Texas. We've also had a really, really difficult year since September with the people of Trinity and Sherman. And some of you may know our brother Craig Sturm, Pastor Craig Sturm, his wife Carrie, his daughter Emma. Craig was in a horrific car accident in September. Absolutely horrific car accident. He should not have survived. The fact that he's alive is a miracle, but he is alive and hurting. And it has been a lot of pain and work for him and his family and the congregation of Trinity and Sherman. And they have stepped up. I know Sally's here. Charles, are you here? If you're a member of Trinity and Sherman, please stand up. We need to recognize you all. It's been since September that Charles and Sally and others have been figuring out worship schedules and figuring out how to do this so that their pastor, who is disabled, is in hospital, is at home on hospital bed, who can't take care of himself, but they're not going to ditch their pastor. Now, they need to figure out what we're doing, and we're working with them, and we're working with Craig and Carrie and Emma, their daughter, who's going off to college this fall. But that congregation, friends, that's an example of stepping up and saying, what can we do to serve our pastor in this time, because he served us. And Craig, Charles, I'm so grateful to you for all of that you've done as a retired pastor. You haven't had to do any of what you've done, but you've done it, and it makes a difference. So thank you. I promise you, this isn't supposed to be a tearjerker, but there's a lot of things that have happened with us, right? And one recently, we remembered our brother, the Reverend Mel Hammer. And because of family schedules and stuff, we had to do it on Holy Saturday. And I was worried that there wouldn't be much of a turnout, but I should have known better, because Mel and Hattie always showed up for us. People showed up for them. And so, at a wonderful service, Pastor Julio, thank you to the folks for your gracious hospitality and for welcoming us in Grand Prairie. And then tomorrow, we won't be with them, but the community in Mesquite, our Saviors, is going to gather and remember the Reverend Vince Nelson. Many of you knew Vince and Dorothy lived part of this community. Dorothy claimed the promises of her baptism last February. So Pastor Shelter will be doing that funeral at 11 o'clock tomorrow, and we will remember them in prayer. We also have had congregations end Word and Sacrament ministry. And that's a grief. It can be a joy when a congregation realizes what they have to give, but it's also a grief to say it's time to be done. In the communities of Emmanuel and Posey, on May 5th, I'll be with the folks at Grace and Slayton as they end Word and Sacrament ministry. And then just this past week, St. Stephen in Shreveport called us and said, it's time. It's time to do it. And so we walk with them, and we walk with you, and we want to walk with your congregation to say, how do we serve? Who can we be together? We've also had some tough losses recently of members of our roster leaders. Nathan Swenson-Reinhold is here with us today. Nathan and Aaron won't be with us tomorrow because they're going to be up in Wichita Falls with Pastor Paul Masaccio of Preston Meadow. His wife Susan lost her brother this past week, and so they'll be worshiping there at the Catholic Church in Wichita Falls. Our prayers go out to Paul and to Susan. We all have griefs and losses. We do them better when we do the grief together. And so as we think about what we are doing, we need to be looking forward. As we think about griefs and losses, we also have opportunities that come. And that's what we see happening across our synod. On Reformation Day, I got to be with Midland Lutheran as they worshiped on Reformation Sunday with the Presbyterians that they're nesting with. And so there's this grace ministry. Yeah, it's exciting. There they are in the back. Yeah. We got a visit from old Martin Luther visited us from Odessa. Also, I think I saw Pastor Jim Rowe come in the back. Pastor Jim Rowe has been our very part-time campus pastor at Denton for the last few years. Pastor Rowe has been working on partnerships and relationships, building community, and that's leading to a new partnership. As he steps away from that ministry, we are going to join forces with the Wesley House ministry there, and the Reverend Marianne Brown Trigg, who is here also. Please raise your hand. Methodist pastor. It is so important, friends, that we have a welcoming and open and affirming ministry on the UNT campus. And by joining forces, we go together to say that we can do this better together, to quit trying to do our own thing and say that will be our ministry. We're in full communion. Let's do this thing together. St. Matthew's in Fort Worth has been hosting St. Christopher Episcopal. Ecumenical partner clergy are serving NTNL congregations. I would list them, but I would forget somebody, and y'all get mad at me. But that's the way of the future, y'all. That's the way of the future. A Methodist pastor serving an old Swedish Lutheran church out in Avoca, Texas. All right? That's the future. Presbyterians serving Episcopalians in Wichita Falls. That's the way we are going. That's the reality that we face. We do it better together. And that includes our partners in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Sierra Leone. Now, COVID, Ebola, Miles, make it hard to be together with our siblings in Sierra Leone. So we are working that relationship, and you are working it with me, and your Synod Council has been working it with us as we work with Bishop Momo and his goal to make the ELCA a sustainable church. Since its existence in 1988, the ELCA has depended on American dollars to make its ministry go. Bishop Momo realizes that's not a viable future for them. They have to figure out ways to do that, and you've invested in them. Last year, I reported to you about their Luther Springs water program, where they have access to clean water that they can then bag, take to the town, and sell as a way of making business and profit, and also supporting the church, but also supporting women and children's education. This is the future for them, and they continue to work on that. They had a piece of property that the church offices were on. They made the decision they're going to lease that property to create cash flow. What does that mean, though? Then they have to move their church offices. Well, some of you know the story of the Jubilee Center. If you don't, we can talk about it as I think. It's been an up and down world. So Bishop Momo has been working tirelessly to figure out the property issues, the drainage issues, the access issues, and they have invested and finished out the second floor of the Jubilee Center to be their offices because they actually own that property. And that way they can receive income from the land they're leasing. They've also bought a palm oil farm, and they're investing in their people trying to make their church sustainable. In October, the Lutheran World Federation is going to have a summit in Freetown that we have been invited to attend. I am going to attend. If you are interested in being part of a renewed ELCSL partnership accompaniment team, I can tell you a free trip to Sierra Leone is not necessarily the greatest thing on earth. It's a long journey, all right? But we want to rebuild and regrow those connections, and I believe in Bishop Momo and what he is doing, and I'm grateful for him. Next year, we will be announcing, or you will be greeting, Vincent Momo, similar last name. Vincent is a graduate student. He's a pastor in the ELCSL, graduate student at Luther Seminary in St. Paul. I got to meet him last fall. He will be coming here to do a year-long internship beginning in May of 25 within congregations in our synod. He'll be embedding himself in congregations in our synod for a few months at a time to gain experience. If your congregation is interested in hosting him in that, let's talk about that. Don talked about the Parish Lay Ministry Academy, and he's not wrong. It is an immensely important ministry for us as a church. The Parish Lay Ministry Academy has produced so many lay leaders, synod council members, even rostered leaders. The goal of the PLMA is not that you're going to go become a rostered pastor. It's never been the goal. The goal is that you will be more educated, more capable, and more willing to help and serve in your congregation. And it has been working. and we are grateful for all who've been a part of the PLMA and for the work that's been done. Miss Madeline Richard has been the Dean of the Parish Lay Ministry Academy for 2 years. She is stepping down from that role. And from our office, Miss Jeannie Hagan is going to become the new Dean of the Parish Lay Ministry Academy. She does most of the organizing work anyways, so she probably should be the Dean. I don't think Jeannie's in the room right now. She's probably out or organizing something, but Jeannie is at the front desk, and we're grateful for Jeannie being willing to step into that role and continue the Parish Lay Ministry Academy. We were asked recently by the South Central Synod of Wisconsin if we could take on 30 of their students. We said that's a lot. Maybe we'll start with 10, and see how it works, but doing it together, right? Rather than them develop their own academy, use our academy, right? That's what we do together. All right, we'll keep it moving here. Because we do that, because we raise up pastors, the NCNL is going into this challenge that we lifted up, that Don lifted up for us, of a clergy shortage, pushing forward. We are a net producer of candidates for the ELCA. What does that mean? It means we produce more ordained clergy than we ever take in from other synods. In the past year, we had 6 NCNL candidates ordained to serve the church. 4 of them are serving here in NCNL right now. 2 of them are serving other places, Southwestern Texas Synod and in the Southwestern Minnesota Synod. But I think all 4, well, unless they're out and getting snacks, probably are in the building who were ordained this past year. The Reverend Sean McConaughey, who's pastor at Trinity in Lockney. Is he here? Is he ignoring me? Oh, there he is. All right. And I put in here, folks, because I think it is important, not only where they're serving, but what was the congregation that raised them up? Where did they come from? Because pastors don't come from nothing. So congregations encourage pastors. So Sean, serving out at Trinity Lockney, raised up by Trinity Fort Worth. Reverend Frank Salvador. Frank, stand up. We recognized you earlier. He's at Holy Trinity Irving. Raised up by this community. The Reverend Mallory Morris from First United in Dallas. The Calvary Lutheran in Richland Hills. And the Reverend Cheryl Harriod, who's serving at Christ the Servant in Allen, raised up by Rejoice Coppell. And then we give thanks to the people of Shepherd of Life Arlington, for the Reverend Jonathan Liss, who's serving down the Southwestern Texas Synod, and the folks of Emmanuel Killeen, who raised up Stephen Swanson. Pastors don't come from they don't come from nowhere. Last year, we also talked about the sale of the Briarwood property. That's hard. That was a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing for us to face. There was a lot of emotions about that, a lot of feelings about that. There still are. That's okay. That's the reality that congregations and people face when we think of what we have to do with the assets that we have. But here's what I can tell you. In that time, as we go forward into the National Youth Gathering, as we look forward to camp, the Briarwood Legacy Endowment has given $151,000 for camp scholarships and for support for congregations to send youth to the National Youth Gathering. It's $151,000 that goes directly to congregations. We write the checks to the congregation, you send the kids. That's doing things together so that we can do ministry. And we live on the legacy of Briarwood because we've got kids going to camp. We've got 91 youth going to camp. We've got almost 200 youth going to the youth gathering. Friends, that's more combined than a lot of the synods in the ELCA right now, okay? Because of your generosity and decision-making, we move forward in faith. It also helps us to support the Reverend Adam Stockton, who I think may also be in the room. Adam is our NCNL Youth Connector and Coordinator. If you haven't connected with Adam, do so. And if you don't have any young people in your congregation, and you say, this means nothing to me, Bishop, go talk to Adam. I think he'll talk you out of that. because you all have connections to young people. Somewhere, some way, you have connections to young people, and you can provide them a faith development experience, and Adam can help you make that happen. It also has provided us some funds along with DLA to have Nathan as our coaching coordinator, as we want to see that ministry grow and thrive. There's also transitions to come, and Pastor Totsky is going to tell her story on this, and I don't want to tell too much of her story, but she came to me about 4.5 months ago and said, I think I need to move home to Wisconsin. I need to be near my family. Chris has been with me for the whole time. She was the first person we called to serve in our office with me. She's been a support. I've known her since Milwaukee days. And we've had our ups and downs, you know. I'm not always the nicest person to work with. You can ask my wife. But Chris has been steadfast and faithful. She's told some of you very hard truths at times that you might not want to hear about the reality of the call process. She has been willing to work with congregations and with our candidates. She has loved on and cared for our first call candidates almost too much. But she has invested her whole being into this call, and we are so grateful for her. As I said, tomorrow she's going to tell her part of the story of why she feels it's time for her to be closer to family. Certainly, I could never argue with that. But we are going to significantly miss you, and we're going to have a rough time replacing you. Well, we won't replace you. We'll find another way to do the job, because we don't really replace people. The only issue I've ever had with Chris is she is a heretic. Because on fall Sundays, occasionally this stole will come out that bears the logo. You might not be able to see it, but it bears the logo of a professional football franchise in Wisconsin. And in that moment, she shows herself to be in violation of the first commandment at all times. No, seriously, Chris, we appreciate you. We care about you. We're grateful for you. We wanted to let y'all know this is happening so that you could express your gratitude to her. We don't exactly know guess what? Call processes take time. So she is working that with synods in Wisconsin. But please express your gratitude to Chris. We didn't want her just to disappear after Synod Assembly and y'all be like, what happened? So we honor that choice that she is making. So looking forward, things I see us really needed to focus in on, again, raising up leaders, laying roster who are creative and collaborative, continue to be open, continuing to navigate transition, trusting the Spirit is going to guide us, engaging our communities, and sharing the gospel boldly. That has to be our center. The gospel.